We are all tired of crying for the dead. This is Genoa, Italy, a town in Italy that is split by a river that runs through the center of town, and it's a port city, sort of like Portland. You know, we're bifurcated, split in two by the Willamette River. Runs through the center of town, and then, of course, we're separated from Washington State and from Vancouver, Washington, by the Columbia River to the north of town. But Genoa, Italy, only has one river. It runs right through the center of town. And there's one bridge that crosses that river, at least one major bridge that crosses that river. And the Italian government, some years ago, privatized their roads and their bridges in response to the demand of the European Union that, you know, hey, neoliberalism, it's a wonderful thing. You got to privatize all these government functions so that some company someplace, some billionaire someplace can make money off your public utilities, your public services. This kind of following on my conversation in the last hour with our conservative caller who was asking, at what point is education really part of the commons? I think we can all, even if we disagree on, you know, the threshold for defining education as part of the commons, we can all agree that public roads are part of the commons, or at least should be part of the commons. Maybe can't all agree on that, actually. Mike Pence privatized the roads in Indiana. You know, the Indiana Tollway. This is, you know, it was done in Ohio, too. It's been done in a number of states. In Chicago, Mayor Emanuel, not Mayor Emanuel, it was the mayor before him, privatized the parking meters. And so, you know, we've got this all across America. You've got this trend toward privatization, but it didn't start here. It's been going on for some time all around the world. So Italy brought in this company. And actually, let me get to that and just say, I just want to read to you. This is from the New York Times, just the first couple paragraphs of the article. Dateline, Genoa, Italy. All day Wednesday, outside the austere building that houses Genoa's morgue, parents, children, friends, and colleagues of possible victims of a collapsed bridge entered, dreading what they may find. William Ben Lulu, 42, owner of a French moving company, arrived in the morning a day after the city's Morandi Bridge collapsed, leaving at least 39 people dead. His daughter, scrutinizing images on social media, spotted the wreckage of one of his trucks in the rubble. Two of his workers had been in the truck, moving furniture from France to Italy, but he didn't know if they had survived. I tried to call him, he said, but I couldn't reach him. An hour later, Mr. Lulu had a partial answer. He identified the body of one worker, a man with a wife and 3 children. Then he went with the police to the hospital in hopes that the other man was alive. He says, they say my other worker may be in intensive care. So that's the part of the story that you see in our media. That's the part of the story that you see on NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, CNN. A bridge collapsed in Italy and 39 people died. And there's footage of it, so it's pretty gruesome. The part that they're not focusing on is that this bridge had been privatized. It was being run by a private for-profit company. This from The Guardian. The Guardian's doing a really good job of reporting on this, like they typically do a really good job of reporting on these dimensions of pretty much every news story, whereas the corporate media, privatization, no, we're not going to talk about that. This is Lorenzo Tondo writing from Italy for The Guardian. Furious ministers from Italy's coalition government have rounded on the company. Rounded is a Britishism for, you know, beat up. The company that manages the country's motorways, as authorities struggle to quell growing anger in Italy over the bridge collapse in Genoa on Tuesday that killed 39 people. A vast span of the Morandi Bridge caved in during a heavy rainstorm, sending about 35 cars and several trucks plunging 150 feet to the railroad tracks below. And here is where it gets real interesting, and this is the part you're not hearing in the American press. The tragedy has focused anger on the structural problems that have dogged the decades-old Morandi Bridge and on Autostrade per Italia, the company in charge of operating and maintaining swaths of the country's motorways. The row escalated on Wednesday afternoon to include Benetton, the controlling shareholder in Alitalia, Atlantia, the infrastructure group that owns Autostrade per Italia. So you got the company that owns the bridge, Autostrade per Italia. They're taking a profit, right? They're skimming money off the top. And then they are owned by by the company Atlantia, which is skimming their money off the top. And Atlantia's controlling shareholder is Benetton. And, of course, they're skimming money off the top. So you've got three levels of corporation skimming money out of Italy's roads and bridges and giving that money to shareholders and wealthy donors and wealthy investors. And what's left for maintenance? What's left for bridge repair? What's left for safety, for finding out if this bridge is going to kill somebody? Not so much. Now, Matteo Salvini, who is the far-right interior minister, who is all in favor of privatization, the hard right in Italy, they love their corporations, he's blaming it on the EU. He's saying that, the EU said you've got to do austerity. If you can't, and with austerity, what that means is tax cuts for rich people, tax cuts for big corporations, increase profits for corporations, and don't spend money on the commons. Don't spend money on social needs, on the needs of the people. So he comes out and he says this is the problem. He says if external constraints prevent us from spending to have safe roads and schools, then it really calls into question whether it makes sense to follow these rules. And yeah, you could argue that the European Union is directly responsible for this because they're the ones who are pushing for austerity, and the logical endpoint of austerity is privatization. In fact, that's the most common consequence of austerity is privatization, and that's why the billionaires who are promoting austerity, that's why they're doing it, because they want to be the stockholders in the new company that owns the roads and bridges. Hey, a new investment, a new way to make money. Our old investments are only returning 1% and 2%. If you can get 3 layers of corporate, greed out there just on one bridge, think how much money you can make on pretty much anything. And then another Italian minister said, instead of investing money for maintenance, this is Benetton, this is the company that owns the company, divide the profits, and that is why the bridge falls. So you've got the right-wingers saying, oh, it's all the EU. You got the left-wingers saying, no, it's the company. Meanwhile, Corriere della Sera, and I'm not sure who or what that is, I believe it's an Italian newspaper, but I could be wrong, reported that 4 other bridges had collapsed in the past 5 years. So when you listen to the Republicans who are out there saying, right up front, we should privatize more of our roads and bridges like Mike Pence did in Indiana, like John Kasich did in Ohio, we should, and privatize and maintain them private, don't take them public again, like Mike Pence and John Kasich. When they're saying this, this is what it leads to. This is what austerity leads to. Do we really want an America where our infrastructure is merely a profit center for a group of Mitt Romney-style investors? Is that really what we want? I'm very skeptical about that, but, maybe. And again, I think this goes back, most people don't even know what privatization is, why we don't teach this stuff in our schools. When we're teaching government and civics, you would think that we should be telling our kids the difference between, basically a libertarian philosophy of government and a small d democratic philosophy of government, or even a socialist philosophy of government. We're not. We're talking about, dead white guys, the founders.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Although I'll tell you, those dead white guys had some thoughts on privatization too, and they were very, very unhappy about the idea. We'll be back.